Hi everyone, I'm just going to show you how to start a coil pot. So I've got my block of clay on the mat, got a clean blue tool, clay tool, and I've got a rolling pin. I think I've probably got too much clay here, so I'm just going to cut it in half. Get rid of the piece I don't need. And then on my mat I'm going to try and roll the clay out evenly. I'm looking for about 2 centimeter thickness. You just spin it around. Roll it in all different directions. And that's fine, it doesn't need to be a perfect circle because I'm going to cut it off. And using a ruler, I'm going to measure, I'd like it to be about 10 centimeters, so about 10 there. That's about 10. I'm just going to draw a rough circle shape. So I'm just going to draw a rough circle shape. If you'd rather do this by drawing around something, obviously you can. If you do something wrong, you can just smooth it out, it's fine. Okay, so I'm quite happy with that. And then I'm going to cut it using the blue tool. It's not going to be a perfect circle, but that's fine. Get rid of the excess clay. The first thing I'm going to do is scratch my initials on the bottom, quite deep, Mr. Thomas, and then turn the clay over. Okay, so I was aiming for 2 centimeters. It's a little bit thinner than that. You want it to be roughly the same thickness all the way around. So when the clay dries, it dries evenly. Okay, the first thing I'm going to do is take a piece of coil. It's broken there, so I'm just going to split that up. And we're going to use the coil on top of the edge of the clay and build it up. Now if I just put this clay on here and left it like that, when the clay dries it wouldn't stick to the other piece. So we need to use a method to get them to stick together. It's called scratch. So I'm going to scratch. All the way around the edge. So try and do cross-hatching shape. And then it's called slip, so scratch, then slip. This is slip. It's a little bit thick actually, so I'm going to smoothen some of these bits out. You want it to be the consistency really of double cream, so some of this slip needs a little bit more time in the water, but for this it'll be absolutely fine. And then the slip acts like glue, so you put the slip where you've just scratched it, like that. All the way around. scoop any sloppy bits up. And the last part is stick. So we've scratched it, slipped it, and then we're going to stick. So this coil will be a bit more secure on the base. So as I'm putting it in, or on the base, I should say, I'm pressing on quite firmly, but not getting rid of the shape of the coil. And then here, I've got a little join. So you pull the clay from one side over to the other, and you push the clay from that side back over. Okay, so we're not quite done yet because it looks a bit like a sandwich. I'm just going to go around, and if you can see the bubbles of slip coming out, that's all the air escaping, so that's good. You don't want any trapped air in the clay. You can move the clay, it's really forgiving, you can move it with your fingers if it's not quite the right shape. So I've got our first layer of coil on. Now, because I've just put a little bit of slip between the first and the second layer, I'm just going to leave that layer as it is for now. I'm going to move on to my next layer. Now, where my join was here, I'm going to make sure I don't have a join with my next coil. I don't need to scratch, slip and stick every coil. I'll show you why in a second. I'm going to try and put my coils directly on top of each other for at least 3 coils high. Okay, so like I did before, I need to pull the clay from one side and then push it on the other. So pulling it from that side and then pushing it back. Do that in the middle with my thumb. I need to do that here as well. So pull it. And push. I'll do that on the inside. So I've got 3 layers of clay and roughly the same height all the way along. And as best I can, I've laid them up on top of each other. Okay. Now what we need to do to make sure these don't come apart is what I did on the join. So I need to pull the clay down from the top. See that? I would do that all the way around, and then I would pull the clay from the bottom. All the way around. So down. I use my thumb to push it down, my finger to pull it up. I'm going to do that all the way around. I'm going to just go over the bottom bit here to save a bit of time. If yours is too wet because of the slip, you can go around and do it later on. So I've gone down with my thumb all the way around. Still a little bit soft here where the slip is, so I'm just going to leave those bits for now. And then I'm going to pull, I'm not scooping the clay, I'm just moving the very, very top layer up. And I'm holding it like this so you can see in the camera. I'm trying to get it smooth, but not really smooth, because we can use another tool for that later. The main thing is that you give the clay some structure, and it's not just coils sat on top of each other. You're trying to build a wall around the outside of the pot. And the last thing, just use your fingers to smooth out any massive bumps or cracks. You don't want any cracks. Once you've done that all the way around, you want to look at the clay and make sure it's the same thickness all the way around. Okay, you don't need to do it on the inside, although if there's any bits that are a bit thin, so I'm looking here, it's a bit thinner, I'm just going to smooth that out. Okay, and then you'll end up with the start of your pot. So there's a little bit there I need to smooth. So I'm going to put that down flat. I don't really want to be touching the clay too much because it'll dry out. Now if I want my pot to go out, I need to build my coils towards the edge. Maybe it's easier to see, towards the edge, and lean them out a tiny bit. If I want my pot to go in, I'm going to put my coils a little bit on the inside. Build 1, 2, 3 coils on top of the base before you go in or out. Okay, so it's 1, 2, and I need to add another one. Okay. Alright, so that's 3 coils deep, you can see. One at the bottom, middle, then top. So, according to the shape of my design, I'm going to make the side go in a tiny little bit. So my next coil, you can see I'm putting it about halfway in. It's not on top, it's not on the outside, it's about halfway in. And you can even do it less than halfway in if it only goes in a tiny little bit. And if you've got too much of the coil, overlap them and cut the excess off. And same technique as before, push from one side, pull. So I need to do that twice, one here as well. I'm just going to push down these coils a tiny bit. And then it's the same process. Down. All the way around. Down from the top. And then up from the bottom. And again, I'm not scooping the clay. Just taking the top layer. And I'm holding the other side with my thumb, so I don't just go and squash it. The last thing I'm going to do is just smooth the clay. I want it to be as smooth as possible, just using my fingers before I use any tools on it. So you can see I'm not going top to bottom, I'm going left to right this time to get it nice and smooth. So all I'm going to do is just check I've got it as smooth as possible, check it's roughly the same height all the way around, and then check it's the same thickness around the coils. Okay, before I carry on building. So once you've got your first 3 coils, you can start changing the shape using your design. Okay, so all I'm going to do now is carry on coiling, and the shape of my pot is going to go in, then back out. So I'm going to be building on the inside of my coils until I reach about here, and then I'm going to go back out because I want it to go in then out. probably got a coil that's a little bit too long there, because I don't want it to be sat on top perfectly. I want it to be on the inside like that. So I just need to take a little bit more clay off. And that should be absolutely fine. So I'm going to do this quite quickly because I've had a bit more practice, but you take your time and just watch the technique. So left to right. Now where the clay joins, so where I've done it here, is where it's going to be weakest. Okay, so that's why I'm doing it on the inside of the joins as well, and the outside. Then I'll carry on, so down. At the very tip of my thumb. And then back up. You can see the shape is already thinner on the inside, and from the side it's curving in a tiny bit. So I'm just going left to right. I've been doing top to bottom, and this will help to smooth the clay out. And all the time I'm checking that this circle is as circular as possible, because I don't want it to be misshapen. So I'm quite happy with the curve of the pot. So I'm quite happy with the curve of the pot, and I've gone in enough. I'm going to start going back out. And obviously to go back out, I need the coil to be half on the outside edge rather than the inside edge. Maybe bring it in a tiny bit. Overlap your clay and then cut it when you need it. So what I'm going to do here is push this clay slightly. I'm going to use my thumb, my finger to keep the shape. Just turn these bits up. You can see it's not on the top of the last coil, it's not on the inside, it's just on the outside edge. And I'm going to do the same. You can see the shape starting to go in and then back out. You can use your hands to help that shape. I'm just going to use my thumb and finger.